Thank you for staying with us on Jeff Koinange Live, JKLive, JKL. Let's take a look at some of your feedback. Remember, you can take part in this conversation at Citizen TV Kenya, hashtag JKLive, and at O'Burrows is my handle. Here we have some feedback from, this is Sarah Nixon Ndungire, who says the KK government had a manifesto or a blueprint where it anchored its promises to the people of Kenya. The KK cabinet is expected to believe in it. What then happens when the cabinet is joined by ODM, who did not believe in it? But you did say that the socialist agenda runs across.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
It's a good question.
It is a good
question. And I realized will there be a merger of the ideologies or the manifestos?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see what else has come in. We have Gitao, who says people heading ministries should be those outstanding in that profession. Different dockets share different competency levels and qualifications. We can't keep recycling the same people for 20 years in government, then say it is an inclusive movement. That is Gitao. George says, one lesson that is clear with regard to today's cabinet nominations is that in politics, be careful what you say in public and never say never. Yesterday, political enemies are now friends who are supposed to work together to deliver on a manifesto they differed on. That is George Kiyoko. We also have Asif Gulam, who says Kenya will not thrive for as long as politicians are appointed CS for political reasons instead of service delivery. Why not advertise the CS positions for technocrats to apply? I told you there was a very strong sentiment around experts in those fields. Yeah. And let us see who else. This is Iminza Muhonja, who says, if I were those ODM nominees, I would carry out an audit of the docket and share the financial status with citizens before they become sacrificial lambs for the past looting. Bure, they will soon be arrested for someone's mistakes in those dockets. Beware. Let us see, this is Nyantika Chester, who says, what Kenyans have seen is the appointment and recycling of once allies turned foes and now new allies to the cabinet. There are many qualified Kenyan men and women devoid of political leanings who can do these assignments pretty well. This is Frank Orinde, who says, now that the president has nominated members of the opposition into his cabinet, is he ready to listen to their alternative ideas? The success of those individuals and government is largely dependent upon the president agreeing to re-engineer his policies and incorporate new ideas. That is Frank Orinde. So several questions arise. There seems to be, you've seen those, strong sentiments that there should be experts in that field.
Yes.
Why? And also, why are we recycling the same people? You see, you've already worked with Oparanya, Joho as an assistant minister. They've already done their time, done their thing. What are they coming in to do that's new or fresh? Yeah.
I think on the issue of competencies, you see, some ministries require more than one type of competencies. The way other ministries like health, which is largely health, when you go to other ministries, you find you have public works, you have land competencies, you have physical planning, you have this. So you cannot say this is a competence. A minister is supposed to be a facilitator. He's supposed to be intelligent and knowledgeable and able, just like the president can't be a possessor of all the competencies that are in the government. But being intelligent, he should be able to harness competencies. In fact, people work best when you mix various competencies together to do a job that is not necessarily skill, a monopolistic skill for any of the ministers. If you put various competencies together, research in strategic management shows that you do best when you bring all those. So that's why in a ministry, a minister is only one. Whatever qualification, if it is housing, like the lady who's gone back to Adi House. Alice, yes. Mm-hmm. She is a lawyer, but it doesn't mean that she cannot be able to oversee housing. Because every ministry has laws, but it also has other competencies that are required. You just need to harness those technocrats to give you results, and then you're able to see whether this ministry is performing. They have a performance contract. So it doesn't. So a minister doesn't necessarily have to be to be in possession of the competencies of that ministry, and they can also be transferred over and over again. And as I said, we have had ministers who performed very poorly in ministers where they had competencies, and health is a very good example. And I don't want to record names. And there are people who came in outside those competencies, and they did very well. So it depends on the demeanor and the passion of that person to deliver. Just like the president, his passion to lead the country forward. He doesn't need to have public administration, engineering, to be able to run roads. No, he doesn't have to. But you have to be passionate as a minister. You are an enabler. You are a coordinator. You are a CEO, running various technical departments. And I think that is where the test comes in. Is this person able to synergize, to create synergies out of the various competencies in that ministry? I think the issue is cycling. I think that we leave to the political, the discretion of the president himself. Because as I said, you cannot, even as per the constitution, we left it free to the president. Let him choose the ministers he wants. So that if he goes up in glory, they go together. If he goes down in shame, he goes with the team that he put in place. Because he can only perform as well as those he has put in the ministries, can perform. If they are non-performers, he can't perform. You're as good as your people. No institution grows beyond the capacity of that human resource. So there's the Kenya Kwanza administration now with the new team that is coming up. They cannot go beyond the competencies and the capacity of the ministers they are put in place in this government. Plus the PSCs, of course, because they may go in and be unable to mobilize the resources, the human resources in the ministries. I mean, either create divisions or be unable to bring them together. So that should not worry Kenyans so much, even from experience from other countries, other jurisdictions. You don't necessarily to be an expert in housing and lands to be able to run that ministry. That requires so many. But are you a good mobilizer? Can you be able to put them together? Raila Odinga is not a political scientist, but he's an engineer. But he's able to run one of the most formidable parties, or Uhuru Kenyatta or William Ruto himself. But you just need to be a good mobilizer, a good organizer, and be able to see things, beyond the normal.
There's a question that was stemming from that Frank asked. So he's appointed these new people to his cabinet. Will he listen to them?
He has no choice. If you are not listen, if you don't listen, you definitely won't make it. The government is too big. Even as the head of public service, you have to depend on even messengers to tell you where files are hidden, or where you cannot be a know-it-all, and you cannot be everywhere. You go mad. The government is so big. I was the head of public service. Maybe I only know 30% of the public service, even as I was in charge of that docket. Government is a behemoth. Is a dynasty. Is a big issue that requires you to really work with other people so they can help you deliver. And I think that is across the world, not just. You have to listen to everybody. Everybody matters. Every opinion matters. You may not like it. They may not like what I'm saying now, but I'm sure they can take one or two things and be able to maximize an advantage to Kenyans from what anybody is saying, whether from the opposition. I think the fundamental question they're asking, will he listen to the opposition, or to even the generation Z, or which other generations come in? Will they listen to them, or is it that the opposition is dead? They can now in parliament vote unanimously for even bad policies, or are they going to listen to the people and be able to move together with? And I think that will be a major test for this, wider government that has been formulated. I think listening to new ideas, getting expertise from across the globe, not just local experts who possibly are local, they're too native. Let's get advice from across the globe. Let's hear how is Singapore able to fight corruption completely and wipe it out, and completely. How are they able to do it? Korea was below us in 1963. They came to take our manifesto, the session paper number 10 of 63. They went back with it. Now they're moving towards fast forward economy. We are still darling. We are moving down to fourth economy. How is that so? But the best documents are in this country. The best policy documents are in this country. How are we unable to implement? So that's why the president has no choice but to listen to even ministers the hands of departments. Anybody, you have to listen to each other. Listen to Wajiko sending cabbages on the ground. What are they saying? If they say there's no money in the economy, let's look for ways of sending money to the countries, pay suppliers, and be able to reactivate the economic performance at the grassroots levels.
All right. So as you make your final remarks, tell us, as a secretary to the cabinet, we hear that title, but essentially what does that role entail? And having served in that capacity, what's your word of advice this evening?
It's a very important title, very strategic in the formulation of what you call the statecraft of a nation. For me, I combined the PS in the presidency, then the head of public service and secretary to the cabinet. So you could see the entire horizon of government. So unlike now, secretary to the cabinet is just secretary to the cabinet. But it's very, very important role, because then you sit with the president and you have to guide the president, because you sit in the cabinet, and then you have to know how is the nation moving. So we would expect, sometimes you can also ask for papers from ministries. How do you bring the interest rate down? How do you make sure government stops borrowing? You can drive the agenda of government from that seat. And you can be able to, because you formulate then the agenda, the notice of agenda with the president, you can then be able to input together with the head of public service to know what should be the agenda of cabinet, so that you're not discussing useless things and ignoring the most important things that trigger economic development and economic performance. So they are part of the administration. Actually, the secretary of the cabinet, head of public service, these are part and parcel of the presidency, the most critical people who make sure that the nation addresses the real issues affecting the people. If it has to reach a point where the president has to dissolve the cabinet because things happened, then it means they're not doing their job properly. They need to know, that's why I'm saying they should go to the ground and listen to what the people are saying, listen to what the youth are saying. They may be young, yes, but they have work on akili. They also have brains. Listen to everybody. And then if it is escalating too much, we have a system called the GAO, the regional commissioner, down to the chief and the village elders. And they're also important, the governors and the awarded reps and their people on the ground. It's good to listen to everybody. Because ultimately, the president is in charge of this country. So the secretary of the cabinet helps in terms of making sure that the agenda addresses the needs of the economy and the needs of the people, and also the popularity of the president. It's their business to make sure the president is popular. If the president has lost popularity, then you don't blame the president first and foremost. You also blame his cabinet. You blame his, I don't want to use the word I used here, which raises a lot of issues. What you call the inner circle. It is them to make sure the statehood, the nationhood, the legitimacy, the hegemony of the state and the government, the popularity of the president is maintained and sustained. The GAO has to make sure people know what the president wants done in this country and what the government has to achieve in this country. That's how the Kenyan economy and Kenyan structure is state crafted for progression. And so the question you asked is important. The Secretary of Cabinet is very, very critical in terms of how the president performs. But then they also follow up the recommendations in the minutes. They will follow up with the ministers. Have they been implemented? The vice president or deputy president chairs the cabinet committees on what was agreed in the cabinet, and then they have to track performance of those decisions. So if they're good decisions, there's no reason why government cannot prosper. And if the government is not prospering, it means they're implementing wrong cabinet decisions.
And in that capacity, did you have an influence over who serves perhaps in what docket?
You can recommend. Of course, at the end of public service, we recommend, of course, you tell the president yes, because you do the what you call the analysis, the biodata analysis, the competencies analysis, the intelligence analysis. This fellow, where has he been? The integrity of this fellow. There's a whole checkup. There's a whole checkup of this fellow from the time he was born to the time you want to appoint him. You want to know what kind of a fellow is he. So you're able to advise, not dictate. You are able to advise this fellow can do better in this ministry, possibly than this one, because of 1, 2, 3, 4.
And do these cabinet sessions get heated, the cabinet meetings?
Yeah.
Or is it just one way, yes sir, yes sir?
No. They are very extremely which with the Nusum Carter cabinet had almost 40 ministers. Those people cannot agree all the time. But you see what happens before the cabinet sits. There is what you call the cabinet committees chaired by Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president. They will normally sit on all papers. Ideally, this is what we did in our administration. So by the time you come to the cabinet, there is consensus. You don't come to fight before the president, unless then that's a mannerless cabinet. You cannot fight before the president. You come and tell him, yes, this is agreeable. We have no issue. This decision we have not agreed, but we seek your guidance. And then he can either approve it this way, or appoint a team to go and guide him on how rethink that issue further.
Okay.
There are many times Mzee Kibaki would call even at night and say, withdraw that, we approved it, but withdraw it. On second thoughts, when he led it, I remember one time he almost called at midnight. People thought Kibaki was sleeping, he was laid back, and he's saying, withdraw that cabinet paper, bring it back for the decision.
And lastly, what does the horse trading look like behind the scenes? Because you're talking about all these considerations from the very beginning, the regional representation, youth PWD's competence. Is it the elders from the communities who nominate a person? How does that work behind the scenes? What kind of pressure is a president under when it comes to naming a cabinet?
No, the president has a discussion. If he wants Kimemia to be the minister for this, he has a discussion. Elders can make their comments. The intelligence system can make their comments. Anybody, colleagues can make, his inner friends can make comments. But ultimately he makes.
One of the suggestions was they advertise and people send their CVs.
Well, you don't, not for the cabinet, maybe for the PSCs. For the PSCs that can be done. But you see what you said, these are people who come to advance the agenda of the president. So he also he want to get people who believe in his manifesto and in his policies. That's why you find anytime there's a new administration, PSCs and cabinet ministers will leave because they are deemed to be, doctrine. Their doctrine is the government that went. So, but you have cases where a president may retain a minister or two because in any case, these are public policies. They are not, personal policies. So, and nobody. You cannot say that somebody who was working for ODM cannot work for Kenya Kwanza or for any other administration. So it's a bit tricky. It has been tried. Whether ministers apply? I think the president should be left to work with this. We discussed it in the Constitution, in the 2010 Constitution, and we thought let the president get the team he briefs who would deliver his mandate and his doctrine and his ideology and his government the way he has crafted it. If he fails, he fails with it. If he succeeds, can't blame anybody. For us, we demand accountability and performance.
Okay.
Yeah, so let him choose the team to deliver that performance.
All right. Yeah. That's as good a note as any on which to conclude Jeff Koinange live tonight. We've been joined by former head of public service as well as secretary to the cabinet, Francis Kimemia, former Governor Nyandarua as well. Thank you for taking the time to join me tonight. And thanks to you as well. My name is Olive Burrows. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Yula Nzale. Good night.
Good night.